So I had been looking for a power and data hub which offered enough USB ports, power ports, and allowed computer control and had dedicated dew heater ports. And I tested the basic SvBony SV241 previously, but it didn't allow computer control of the ports and it didn't have dedicated dew heater ports. So when I noticed that SvBony had released a new updated version, I decided to try it out and see how this one performs. Pegasus Astro already had a couple of different models available, but those ones cost quite a bit for the features that they offered, which is why I was looking for a lower cost option that offered similar features. And the SV241 PRO Power Hub, it offers 7 DC ports for power, and one of them is regulated, one of them is always on, and there are 5 extra ones that you can control over the computer. It also offers 6 USB ports, one of which is USB-C and 2 are USB 3. And each port supports up to 5 volts and 2.5 amps for both charging and data. So that's plenty of power for just about any kind of equipment you might want to power or connect to the USB ports. It also offers 2 dew heater ports, which offer a total of 6 amps of power. And port 1 is fully automatic, so everything is controlled based on the humidity and temperature. And port 2 is fully manual. Now, one thing I noticed is that even though only port 1 for the dew heaters allows automatic control, you can actually put in a splitter like this RCA splitter that I have over here, and one of these can go to controlling the dew heater on your main telescope, and the other one can go to controlling the dew heater on your guide scope or your eyepiece if you're doing visual observing, for example. And this way both of your dew heaters can be controlled automatically using port 1. So this way both of your dew heaters will automatically be set to the same setting, but I find that works perfectly fine. Now here is a little bit of information you might want to know about the included temperature probes, as it's not very clear in the manual. Now the first temperature probe, the one on the very outside that says temp on it, that is the longer one compared to this little shorter one over here. So this longer one goes right next to your dew heater on your telescope. You can slide it in between the telescope and the dew heater band, and that'll measure the temperature of your dew heater and your telescope optics, and then it'll make the adjustments to make sure it's supplying the right amount of power to prevent dew without using up too much of your battery. And the other sensor included, that is the shorter one, and that plugs into where it says T+H, so that's the second port on the inside, and on the sensor it also says T+H. Now this is the one that monitors the ambient temperature and ambient humidity, and then it uses that data as well as the data from the longer temp probe to adjust your dew heater settings. So on the very opposite side over here, this is the regulated port, and this is for either cameras or mounts that might require a very specific voltage. So by default this one is off, so you set the voltage you need in software, and then you can connect whatever device you need it to be. But normally I recommend not using this port and just leaving it empty unless you know exactly how much voltage your device needs, and just use one of the other power ports. Now beside power and data ports, this USB hub also offers overcurrent protection, over voltage protection, under voltage protection, reverse polarity and reverse current protection, as well as contact and air discharge electrostatic protection. And as someone who has lost a good bit of equipment to static discharge, for example, in my really dry climate over here, I can definitely appreciate having that. To install the SvBony SV241 PRO, just go to the link in the description of this video and download these 3 programs, the ASCOM driver, the hub controller, and the firmware package flashing tool. And once you've downloaded the file, simply extract the entire folder. There we go. And then we can delete the 3 zipped folders that we downloaded. And first of all, install the ASCOM driver. Double click to install. Click on more info and click run anyway, and yes. And then go back and do the same thing for the hub controller manager. I would also recommend just using the firmware controller now, or updating the firmware. and just open up main.x. Run anyway. Just click on the drop down menu. Let's try this one. Oh, there we go. That's the correct one. I have multiple devices using the COM ports, so I just had to select the other one here. And so that will update the firmware. Once you get to this point, you can simply close out of it. And now you can go back here to the hub control manager and control things from in here. Using this serial control app, I can control everything from here. So it's connected to COM7. Yep, there we go. So you can see that the PWM1, which is the dew heater controller output 1, is set to maximum. And dew heater control output 2 is off because there's nothing plugged in there. Now if I look down here, the voltage is good. Power, that's how much power it's drawing. The temperature is is 3.5 degrees. The dew point right now is minus 3.6 degrees. Humidity is almost 60%. And the lens temperature, which is the temperature of my dew heater, is about 6 degrees. Close that. And now I can actually control everything from within Nina, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, I have connected the SvBony switch. I have turned it on from here. And yeah, everything is automatically connected. We can see that it's using 10 watts of power. Voltage for the battery is a good 13.4 volts. Ambient temperature outside is about minus 8 degrees Celsius, whereas the lens temperature is reading as 6 degrees Celsius. I had plugged in my camera to DC5, that's the 12 volt port number 5. So I've turned that on now. USB ports are already on automatically. And the pulse width modulation, so that's the dew heater port number 1 that has been plugged in. And yeah, it's automatically managing that. I only have the one dew heater plugged in, so nothing else in port 2. Now this power hub does remember your settings for power and USB when you power it off. However, I noticed that if you completely disconnect the power, so completely unplug it, then when you turn it back on, it doesn't remember the settings for your DC output ports. So port 1 to 5 for the DC outputs for whatever devices you have connected there. So I'd asked SvBony if they can add that option in their next firmware update, and they confirmed that they are planning to implement that in a future firmware update. Now, this is not an issue for anybody with a permanent setup, but for someone who sets up their equipment every single time from scratch, it might be a helpful feature to have the device remember your power options. Otherwise, you just have to go into the software and turn on the DC port that you have your camera, for example, connected to power it each time if you completely disconnect the power from your device. So it's nice to see that they are planning to implement that policy in the future. So after some fairly extensive testing, my conclusion is that this device works very well. It helps a ton with cable management. It offers tons of ports and provides sufficient power for just about any kind of setup that you might be running. It offers full remote control from your computer, and SvBony does offer it at a very attractive price compared to any of the alternatives that I saw out there. And you can check out the link in the description of this video if you decide to purchase this. And if you have any questions at all, be sure to post them in the comments of this video and I'll be sure to answer. Thanks again for watching, and clear skies.